Hi everyone, I'm Victor. One of my job is to promote Chinese medicine and Chinese culture. I often meet a lot of people who dismiss Chinese medicine because they simply don't understand it, or they don't believe it, or maybe they're just Western medicine doctors who have a bias for Chinese medicine. But in 2015, Dr. Tu Youyou received her Nobel Prize using Chinese medicine material to treat malaria. Now, this was a big news in the Chinese medicine field. And we thought, some people think that it's pseudoscience, but it's not. And we see that Michael Phelps, the Olympic gold medalist, was having these marks on him. Now, some of the audience in here might know what these marks are. They're called cupping therapy in Chinese medicine. But with these news and these research and Nobel Prize, it should be easier for us to promote Chinese medicine and let people believe in it. However, that's not the case. So what happened? Why are people not believing in it? And why are people still dismissing Chinese medicine? My grandfather, Dr. Chen, was one of the most important and most famous promoter of Chinese medicine and protector of Chinese medicine. He received his master's in engineering from Pittsburgh University. And as a scientist, he always says that anybody who rejects Chinese medicine without understanding it doesn't have the scientific spirit. Now, why are so many people still not believing in it? Well, there's a phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. What happened is that there's a lot of people who lacks in certain knowledge and experience in the field and thinks that they understand more than the people who are experts. So, but this is not only occurring in Chinese medicine. These are only occurring in people who doesn't believe in Chinese medicine. Even people who believe in Western medicine have the same problem. Well, it's December right now, and as winter comes, there's a lot of people who gets cold or flu. Especially in Asia, a lot of people would ask their doctor to prescribe antibiotics. However, a lot of people don't know that antibiotics doesn't treat virus. They only treat bacteria. But I always meet people and say, hey, you know what? I need antibiotics. And they will even mock me and say, you don't understand. I had experience where antibiotics treat me and cure my flu or cold. So these people also falls into that phenomenon of Dunning-Kruger effect. So how do we obtain the actual knowledge? Well, people who believe in things believe in true or false information. But people who have knowledge are based on facts. Now, how do we obtain knowledge? How do we obtain truth? Well, I also teach Confucianism. And I look back to our ancient Chinese philosophy and the teachings of Confucius, and I found out that we can conclude with 5 questions when we want to obtain knowledges. The first question would be, have you collected your information meticulously? Well, what does it mean by meticulous? It means it has to be thorough. Well, it takes time. And how do we collect information? Usually we collect information from seeing, listening, hearing, tasting, and touching. But one of the most important things is by reading. Vast amount of reading will get us information. And by reading enough information, we will actually learn from other people's experience and avoid wrongdoing. However, there are less and less people read now. You would be surprised. In America, people are spending less and less time on what they are interested, personal interest. Well, if they don't even spend time on their personal interest, would they even read other stuff? What's even more surprising because we are in Taiwan right now, is that 40% of the people in Taiwan haven't read a single book in the year of 2018. So how would you obtain any kind of knowledge without reading? Even worse, I'm sure that you guys, audience, have probably done it, or I've done it sometimes, is to read newspaper with only the title, but never really read what the content is. And how will you know the content matches the title? So reading is a very, very important thing for us. The first step. The second question is, have we asked the relative question? Well, we should ask a question all the time. And asking question is for us to find out more and more things. Why do we ask questions? First, it's because we don't know anything. That's why we ask questions. Second is we know some things, but we want to know more. So we ask. The third is we ask enough, but want to know more detail. We still ask. But you would think that we ask a lot of questions. Did you know that kids ask 300 questions a day? Nearly. But as we grow up, as adults, we don't ask that much questions anymore. Why? Well, mainly because we don't bother to ask. Okay, and the worst part is when I go onto Facebook or any kind of social media, I would post something and people would ask me, what is it? And I just say, Google it. You could Google it yourself without asking me first. You could ask these questions yourself. And I found out that four things people don't do. I mean, they don't ask questions out of these four reasons. One is laziness. They just are lazy to ask questions. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to even use my brain. Second is they didn't prepare anything. They didn't read beforehand. So they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't ask anymore. And the third one is afraid of embarrassment. There are people who don't ask questions, especially in Asia, because they are afraid that they're showing they don't understand or they don't know. And the last one is they just don't know how to ask the question. So asking question for us is very important because only by asking, we would know more. We would dig in more. And therefore, asking us if we ask the question or ask the relevant question is very important. Next question is, have we done deliberation? Have we done elaboration? Have we inference? This is the part where you gather the information, you start asking questions, and then you organize them. You systematize them. And this is the part where you start having hypotheses. But the thing is, you would think, well, it's simple. It sounds like it's simple. But when you get to a higher degree of knowledge, it's harder. If you look at these pictures in Chinese medicine, and you would think, wow, what the hell is this? Does this make any sense? Well, when I first encountered Chinese medicine, it's very hard for me to understand it. But as I start reading and I start asking questions and I start organizing them, it becomes a very systematic thing. I start to understand them easily. If you use a good language to explain them, an engineer would be easier to understand, just like my grandfather. So thinking and organizing is very important. The fourth question is, have you done differentiation? And have you done the judgment? Did you judge the sources that you get the information from? A lot of times we get information, but we don't know that the information was biased or prejudiced, or even ourselves is biased. And why is that a problem? Because we always try to find things that we like, or things that can prove us right, or prove others wrong. And that would become a problem. That is not a neutral way to look at things. And only with neutral stuff, neutral way of looking at things, with all aspects, with all angles, you'll be able to get the real truth. So we want everything to be balanced, just like the Chinese philosophy. So we have to ask ourselves, are the information we gathered bias or uh, prejudice? Because we always get excuses to look at the biased stuff. Well, we look at the information and say, well, that is the reason. The reason why he wrote this is because of this. We find excuses for the information we get. And sometimes we just don't refuse to believe things. Okay, just like some people I meet in Chinese medicine, they just simply don't want to believe it, no matter how you want to explain to them. And there's no reason for it. And if you don't want to believe into something, you're not open to any kind of new information. And not willing to make any mistake is also because in Chinese word face, you don't want to lose face. Because if you ask certain questions, if you find out the information is not what you thought, you might be embarrassed. But the last one, the most important one, is a bandwagon effect, where people around you all believe the same thing. And therefore, you just kind of follow them. And you don't distinguish yourself from their knowledge. You just believe in what everybody else says. And that becomes a problem. So be able to differentiate and judge where the information comes from is very important. Now, lastly, is have you practiced and experiment? Well, you gather all the information from reading, from asking, from thinking, okay, from differentiating. But can you verify if they're true or not? Does it work or not? So we have to verify a lot of things. Think about it. I can tell you how to swim. I can tell you how to make a stroke. I can tell you how to kick your legs. But without going into the water, you'll never learn how to swim. The same thing. Here, I like to give you two examples of very, very awesome and very impressive case studies where I encountered personally in Chinese medicine. These people didn't believe in Chinese medicine at all. But after they give it a try, it changed their life. The first person was a dentist from Thailand. She was diagnosed in May this year with hyperthyroidism. And you can see the white blood cell count, the liver number, and the T3, T4 hormone are off the chart. They're off the roof. Look at the May. So she was a dentist. She studied Western medicine. And I convinced her to try Chinese medicine. She said yes, she'll try it. And if anybody who knows hyperthyroid, is that you have to take drugs for almost 2 years to become normal. So we start treating her. And we start treating her at end of June. And at end of July, her numbers are starting to come down. But still high. But at the mid-October, her numbers are all normal. Within 4 months, using Chinese medicine, without a single pill of Western medicine. The second one I want to share is a friend of mine who's very, very, who got into an accident really bad, broke all his limbs. He had his vertebrae, he had his spine broke, okay, severed. You can see in the picture. And he was on wheelchair for 3 years with a urinal bag. And I convinced him to try Chinese medicine using special acupuncture. You can even see the scars on his back from the surgeries. The doctors basically told him that it's gone. And this is him now. Within 4 months of treatment, he can move, he can walk now. That's very impressive. And they all believe in Chinese medicine now. So if you haven't really experimented anything, you wouldn't know anything about Chinese medicine. So having an open heart about it is very important. So the word 学问 is the same word as knowledge in English. The word 学 is actually learn. And the word 问 is ask. It literally means learn to ask and ask to learn. But besides all of that, the most important thing for us is you have to know what you know already and what you don't know already. And Confucius says that if you know what you know and you realize what you don't know, and that is the true knowledge. And so therefore we need to have humility and motivation always for us to do this, to learn more. And so therefore we will continue to learn to ask and continue to ask to learn. Thank you very much. I'm Victor.